really real, no, this is not for play. I see you and you see me, you wanna ride the wave. I can spot you from a mile away. Tap the gas and I'm gone, this is not a race. I just bought some racks in. What's happening? It's just me and my guys, don't got no rap friends. You ain't see the front but talking back ends. Oh, I see the money, whoa, pick and roll, give and go. I see the money, whoa, pick and roll, give and go. I see the money, whoa, pick and roll, give and go. I see the money, whoa, pick and roll, give and go. Oh my God, 3 cars, 5 jobs, slam door, off the law. Shorty said she got the wap, I just want the walk. Posted money on the snap, that'll get you robbed. Nike tech, shot wet, 3 dice bet, head crack flex. This is not a question, I don't ever practice, never act in, always act in. Back in 2010, we were sipping activists.
Hello everyone, welcome to the Spot Real Talk. My name is Tiara.
I'm Lawanda.
I'm Tiffany.
Hey, and I'm Ron.
And today we are back. We are discussing The Godfather of Harlem Season 2. This is episode 2 and it is titled Sting Like a Bee. So if you hang tight, we'll be right back with you.
Baby, I know where the last one burnt you, know that ain't cool. Wanna show you how I'm nothing like him, swear that's the truth. You can't trust that alone.
All right, we are back. Like I said, this is Godfather of Harlem. This is a good start to the second season. I mean, every week it seemed like they always pick it up. And this week was no different. Bumpy, man. I think the more I watch him, the more I see why he's successful. And it's because he is really good at tapping into people's psychology. He understands what motivates people. And I've seen that a number of times throughout this episode. What did you guys think?
Well, he also has a wife that can think out of the box. I mean, you know, she's a good mix for him. And she gave him some real good instruction on how to deal with this so-called Italian connection. I thought that was, initially when she said it, I said, oh my God, she can't be, serious. But it played out. She knew what she was talking about.
Yeah, I mean, it's true. The whole situation with the Italians was like a major topic of discussion this episode because Bumpy is trying to find a way to gain his independence from having to rely on them so much. And so the flip side of that is that they're also like the biggest suppliers of heroin all the way around. So at some point he would have to deal with them, except for instead of dealing with Sicilians directly, he was saying that he could talk to another set of Italians called I guess it's Corsicans, if that's how you say it correctly. Mm-hmm. And they are a little less racist or, they're willing to work with Black people and deal with people not on the basis of their skin color. At the end of the day, I guess green is the only color that matters to them. And so he would just need an Italian partner somehow. So he's been going through trying to figure out who he can work with to get this money and get the heroin directly. So it's interesting how he maneuvered that, going to Frank Costello first and then going to Joe Banana. They both kind of turned him down. And then finally taking Mamie's advice and ending up with Chin.
Okay.
And of course they hate each other. So it's like, how can you work with somebody you despise? But at the same time, it really is all about the money.
Money talks and access because Bumpy was going to have the access he let Chen think he was going to have access to the special prosecutor that can offer protection from the feds. So it's in their best interest to work together despite the fact that they hate each other.
Yep. I love that, how Bumpy played Chen with the whole FBI coming in and setting up that fake raid. That was hilarious.
How cool was that? I mean, but that's how a thinking man does. He is the true chess player. And, he proved that with Frank. Even though Frank taught him the game, Frank couldn't beat him. Mm-hmm. That's how he thinks. He's always playing a chess game and he plays against folk. So I really enjoyed this episode because Bumpy seems to be bumping it up every episode. He just shows more and more of his intelligence and why he is who he is in Harlem. And yes, Harlem needs Bumpy. Without Bumpy.
You know, and Bumpy, he really exemplifies why the Italians are so afraid to let go of their stronghold on that game and hand any ounce of power over to the Black community, is because they see what Bumpy has done. Just what you were saying with Frank, how he taught Bumpy how to play chess, and then Bumpy is outsmarting him now. I think that he sees that, and I think a lot of them see that, and they're like, any ounce of control we give over to them, they could really beat us at our game. We have to keep a stronghold on this game.
You know what I thought, what I keep seeing is Bumpy, he appeals to their lower nature, their based interest, and so I think with Chin or any of them, it's greed, right? It's money, but it's more so than money. It's greed. It's having more than enough, right? And I think that's going to end up being their downfall, because it's what you said. If you give him a little, he's going to take control. But when you think about it, you're basically eating off the Black community in Harlem. And Bumpy is like, why should we continue to feed you? We shouldn't do it. And so I thought that was ingenious of him to pull together his resources so that they could form community. And then if they acted in unison, just like the 5 families acted together, they could take over it. They wouldn't need them at all. So I think he just realized that. I also think he realized that Chin doesn't quite fit in with them. He doesn't quite feel accepted. So if it's any of them that he was going to be able to pull off, it's the one who is almost like the white sheep of the group,
Yeah, the outlier.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We talked about that last week, because they kept calling them the chauffeur's driver and things. Mm-hmm. So we already know that they don't hold him in high esteem. And also I appreciate the fact that now, we talked about last week, that Bumpy is a statesman. So not only is he a strategist, he's a diplomat. So he is always able to reason and and strategize and come to common ground with folks, even folks he doesn't like. And we saw that this week.
Well, I think too, it also brings home what racism is really about. Racism is about economics. Mm-hmm. It's about holding a certain group of people higher and bringing down a second group, that lower group. And they happen to know that if you give Blacks power, if you give us a chance to operate in your realm, that they know what's going to happen. And just like you said, Tiffany, it'll be a total takeover, because that's how we've been playing chess since we got over here. It's just that the more we've learned, the more we can manipulate. And that's what Bumpy is showing. He's showing how he can manipulate their game to his advantage. Mm-hmm. And it's just bringing home the fact that they want to keep us out of this economy, even to this day, because they know the effects of what it would be if we were to get a stronghold on this economy.
And I was gonna just add on to what you were saying, because when Bumpy had brought all the different guys from the different cities together, and he was kind of discussing with them like how they can get a 60% discount if he was to, find a direct supplier, that group economics, I really hope that people watch this show and take away the lessons of the past.
Yes.
Because that group economics, it's like a major, it could really change the game for the Black community. And I see us starting to slowly get back to that mindset of, it's better to work together than that kind of crabs in a barrel mentality. Exactly. And so I just hope that viewers are, not just seeing this as entertainment, but also taking away the lessons.
Absolutely.
His speech really spoke to that, right? It is that. It's group economics, and it's about having a right to self-determination. Because when you look at the things because of course Bumpy is doing this for money and power, but you look at what he's doing it for. He's actually making the lives of the people in Harlem better. He's offering them protection. He's offering them resources. He's feeding them when necessary. When they have issues with housing, he was there to step in. So I think that's the other point, that when you're talking about the group economics, is what, in the end, what are we doing this for? Is it just so we can individually be wealthy and have things, or is it so that we can all benefit and that we can all have a way of life that is happy, healthy, and wealthy and livable for us and the generations to come? So I think that's also the difference, that as much as the five families want to I'm trying to remember his name, when he talked about his grandchildren, that's also a thought in Bumpy's mind too. It's not just for me and my sake, it's for us and our sake.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what Mamie reminded Adam Clayton Powell about, because he's talking about, oh, you here to serve the people. Yeah, and the people support Bumpy. Bumpy supports the people. And, you know, Adam Clayton Powell needs the same support from them people.
Yeah.
So.
And that's what I found interesting too. I love how Mamie is she's a team player. And she knows what Bumpy is doing and how his means of doing it. It might not be, you know, the most reputable thing, but she also understands that it's a way to advance the community. I think it's a means to an end. And so the way that she supports Bumpy and she stands by his side, I think that's so commendable of her. And to try to flip what he's doing and make it positive too by doing the voter registration and just being involved in the community. So Adam Clayton Powell, he is truly a trip. And just like Bumpy is doing it for his own reasons, Adam Clayton Powell's doing the same thing.
Exactly.
So self-serving.
Well, you know, Adam Clayton Powell said something that was quite funny. He said, if he had a wife like Bumpy's, you know, he might not have been married 2 or 3 times. So, you know, he definitely gets how important Mamie is to Bumpy and to him. He knows. So, you know, we see that he had to go back and eat crow and knock on that door and say, hey, you know, you're right. And I'm sure that was pretty hard for him, but he did come around.
It's interesting. Mamie knows how to play her role too, because when she was speaking with Elise and they were talking about Muhammad Ali, she was like, I don't like the way he talks. But then when she was watching the fight with Bumpy, she was like, oh, she was piping Muhammad up. She was like, oh, sting like a bee. Yeah, I was like, okay, yeah. But a few minutes ago to Elise, you were talking sideways about Muhammad.
You know what?
I'm sorry, go ahead, Luana.
I was gonna also say that, you know, in the conversation with Adam Clayton Powell, she said that the people need Bumpy. They need both. And I think that's a recognition that we have this perception of what America is, but then there's also the reality that shows the underbelly. And so you need people playing on both sides. So if the majority of the economy is controlled by, I guess, the black market, I don't want to use that word, the illicit market, so to speak, or these organized crime syndicates, you need somebody on that side too, that we need representation in every place that matters. And so it's kind of like the Malcolm and Martin argument, you need both. So just as we need somebody in Congress, we need a Bumpy Johnson too, because that's probably the real way that money is moving in and out of our community. So if you don't have Bumpy, then we're just getting taken advantage of. And it's interesting that Adam Clayton Powell, he's in politics and he knows it's a dirty game. So it's almost like I understand that, because we come across the same argument when we're dealing with snowfall, right? That you put drugs in the community and that's harmful. And that's probably something we should not do. But at the same time, Adam Clayton Powell knows that it's a dirty game on all sides. And so you have to work together, because as long as you have somebody who's like Bumpy, maybe he can minimize the harmful effects of what's going to already come into the community until we get to a place to we can stop it altogether.
Yeah, I think that's well said, because it was something that I was thinking about. You know, when you have the syndicate, and as of course back during then, at those times, you know, I mean, if you were a part of the syndicate, you pretty much controlled everything, not only the economics, but you control policing, everything else. And what we see with Bumpy is just brilliantly working both sides. I was a little fearful when the federales came in and, you know, wanted to talk to Bumpy. I'm not certain if it's something that, well, I guess he has to do it because of where he is proportionately, but it does bring to mind Snowfall. Here we go again with your government, you know, coming in and doing things that are so dastardly wrong, but it's to a so-called greater end. And here Bumpy is right in the middle of it. And, you know, it'll be interesting to see how he plays out with the with Robert, I believe his name was, federal prosecutor.
Robert Morgenthau, I think.
Morgenthau. It'll be interesting how he plays him, because, you know, he's really between a rock and a hard place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if anybody can figure it out, it's Bumpy.
That's true.
He will find a way. And I like how the episode kind of ended with Kim and Chen, that fight that they were having, and flashing that between the fight between Sonny and Cassius.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but at the end, you know, Chen actually did agree to go forward with this 50-50 partnership. Now, I'm just interested in seeing how this plays out, because he agreed, but we know Chen is very liable to go back on his word.
Yeah,
Well,
and we knew he wasn't going to stop coming after Bumpy too. We talked about that last week, and he also got whooped just like Sonny Liston did.
right. You know, it's funny too, because now here's the catch-22 for Chen. If Chen starts to get involved, then he is as culpable as Bumpy, because you know, if he's involved in any way, and you know, I don't think the other four families like him anyway. You know, they're probably just on a dime waiting for him to slip up and do something wrong. So,
well, that's what Morgenthau was saying. He's like, none of the families really like each other. They're just tolerating one another for money.
Money talks, yeah.
but it goes back to with the fight, when you brought up the fight, you know, and I remember very well with Cassius Clay and Sonny Liston. Sonny Liston wasn't very well liked by Americans either. He was called the Bear. Sonny, at the time, heavyweight fighters, Sonny Liston was about 6'1", 200 pounds, and you didn't have anybody out there. When he beat Floyd Patterson, he beat him twice. Floyd Patterson was the heavyweight champion, and Liston beat him badly the first round, first attempt, and the second attempt he beat him. And then here comes Cassius Clay. What people didn't like about Cassius was his mouth, and I think mostly because why black folks didn't like Cassius Clay is because, you know, we didn't want trouble on our backs. We didn't.
Not all black folks. Cassius Clay was my dad's hero. Still,
Cassius Clay was my father's hero, my hero. I love the way he talked. You know, and was one thing I liked the most is you didn't hear black people talking like Cassius Clay.
Right, that's why my dad loved him.
Exactly. You know, your dad and me, we on that same accord. I love your father, you know, for how he thinks, because it's just that way. And that's why I was a little bothered when Mamie said she didn't like Cassius Clay because of his mouth, you know, but what, white folks got mouths and they use them. Well, what's wrong with us stepping in that game and playing the same game? You know, it's just weird how we are so willing to give up on each other before we really know, you know, anything about what we're really giving up. It's, you know, we got to stop doing that. This goes back to what you were saying. We have to work as a group because there's so much out there for us if we just hang together.
Yeah.
That might be a good thing too, that Bumpy would work with him, because if there's any retaliation, he could, you know, have them off his, his or his enemy, right? So that's not a bad idea to work with him, because if
eliminate the competition.
They've eliminated it for him.
Oh, you mean working with the feds?
No, working with Chen. Working with Chen, because if anything goes wrong, they gonna nix him. I mean, that's a good way to get rid of him.
Yeah. So it's like, if I gotta go down, you coming with me.
Yeah. And I think Chen will go before Bumpy, because I still think that Costello still kind of holds Bumpy in high regard, though Bumpy lied to him about killing that main man. But you heard what he said. He said he was a prick anyway. He didn't like him either.
Right. I mean, if he's willing to sit down and play chess with him, he likes Bumpy. You know, he really likes him. So I'm with you. I think if it had to be one of them, it'll probably be Chin first.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I agree. And so we kind of touched on this fight that Cassius had, but leading up to that fight, Malcolm was asked by Cassius to come down and support, and Bumpy kind of helped him, plant that seed. Like, if you go down there, this could help you get back in with the nation. And so I was like, look at Bumpy helping other people strategize.
That's why I said he's a statesman and a diplomat, because I was like, he was offering counsel to everybody, including Malcolm.
Yeah, it's true. And so
What do you think
Malcolm,
about
I
Bumpy?
mean,
I'm
what
sorry.
was you saying?
What do you think about Malcolm's wife? I don't know where to stand with her. And what I mean by that is, in some instances, I know what she's doing and why she does it. She's a mother. She has children, and she wants Malcolm to spend more time with the family. But it doesn't seem like she has a good stronghold on the nation and what's really going on with Malcolm as it relates to the nation, because of the fact that, when he wanted to go to Florida and spend some time with Cassius Clay, she was a little hesitant about it because she wants Malcolm to spend time with the family, not necessarily going to Florida and spending time with Cassius Clay. But I don't think she's not as strategically minded as Mamie.
No,
And
she knew what Malcolm was trying to do. She knew he was trying to get back in the nation, and she knew what the nation, she knew at the time that, Malcolm was kind of blinded by trying to get back in there, and he couldn't really see the forest from the trees, like with the situation with Elijah and everything. Like, Betty saw what was going on from jump. Like, history, she was like, I think she was wisely trying to advise him, honestly.
Yeah, I think she really meant well, and she was trying to help him see that his value didn't lie with being associated with the nation.
Thank you.
Like, it was like, you're great regardless of them, you
right.
can do your own thing.
But the nation, you just don't drop and say, "Hey, I retire." Particularly.
But he was he wasn't in it at the time. They expelled him. He didn't freely walk away from them.
Yeah, but you understand, if he were to just call up Elijah Muhammad and say, "Hey, I'm done, I'm over," well, the ultimate would have happened, as it did anyway, I presume. And I think that was probably more heavily weighted on Malcolm, because sometimes you would just be afraid to leave, and
he was already out, is why I'm saying. He was already out, and which is why he was trying to try to leverage the relationship with Muhammad so he can do his own thing.
Yeah, but my point being is, one of the reasons he was trying to get back in is because he knows the damage that that Elijah Muhammad can do to him when he is exiled from the nation, and that's where he did not want to wind up being. So I can understand why he was willing to do almost anything to get back in the good graces of the Elijah Muhammad.
Yeah,
but she saw it for what it was. She saw that that regardless of what he had done, you saw the efforts that he made last week and the letters he had written, and no matter how contrite he seemed, Captain Henry was going behind his back. Like, they were already, because they believe he had exposed this deception, there was nothing he could have done to get back in there with them. And that's what she saw. And sometimes, the wives, the women, sometimes we see stuff and we try to, not try to overstep or usurp the headship, but we see things and be like, I know this is what you want, but this is what's happening.
Yeah, I think it's interesting you bring that up, though, Ron, is because if you've seen movies and other portrayals of Nana Betty Shabazz, and they all come out differently, but it's like Tiffany said, the history of it is, I think I heard or read her say something that she wished she had been as forceful, as forward as maybe some of the characters that she saw it and she communicated in the way that she did. But I do think that he was a true believer. I think it was one of those things that he was really convinced that, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was the prophet. He believed in the institution. And because of the work that he'd done, he built it, but he also saw the impact that it had on the community and how the institution, if rightfully used, would have benefited and uplifted the people and been a forward step towards progress and true liberation. And so I think it's also a person who sees the potential of a thing, but also sees that it's human frailty that destroyed it, jealousies.
Yeah.
You know, the individual jealousies that people would damage the organization want to see him out and not consider the collective. And I think that was sad and disappointing. And one of the reasons he worked so hard to get back in, because if he could only get back in and right the ship, right? Yeah. And I think that was the vision that he ultimately still didn't get to realize.
That's exactly right.
Well said.
I agree that, well, excellently said. And and that's the part that Betty didn't see at the time.
Right.
And rightfully so, because like you said, Tiffany, you know, she had some other concerns. She had his concern for his life, you know, for his health and so forth. So she's not looking at it as deeply as, you know, how you expressed, LaWanda, but that is that's the other side of that coin. And you have to understand both sides.
Yeah.
And that was his goal, but were they going to let him back in to do that? They weren't. And that's probably what she deduced. Like, hey, like I get what you want to do.
It's just pettiness when you think about it. You know, I think it's in the book. I think it may have been, I don't know if it's the book or the movie where it talks about it was the perfect organization, but in the ends ruined it, right? And you just like, okay, the whole idea is that we're all trying to get free. We don't have time for you to be jealous or for you to be greedy, because we're all trying to get free. Can we at least get free and then deal with that? But you know, Judas and the Messiah, it's that Judas from within we keep dealing with. But I think it's the portrayal, like you said, this Betty, what does this Betty bring to the table? And I think it's the emphasis on trying to get him to focus on the children, because you have this responsibility to the whole, but you also, as a father, have a responsibility to these children, and just trying to keep him focused on that. And, you know, you wonder how much the children have suffered, or they said, you know, whether or not they really knew him, you know, even as being their father and such an iconic figure with his focus elsewhere, did they really get a chance to bond with him, to know him, to have that connection with him?
And you know, that scene where Cassius was on the phone with Elijah, I was so hoping that he would just go over there and snatch the phone and like have a direct conversation with Elijah. I'm like, come on, Malcolm, just go. You know who he's talking to, just go and take the phone. But it didn't work out like that. Like I just wish they would have had, like, at least on the show, you know, had a direct conversation, because that could have mitigated a lot of the BS that Henry started.
I'm stepping out to say that Malcolm X was the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's Frankenstein. You created Malcolm X, and yet you became jealous of him because of his influence. And I think that that's where the line actually had started to be drawn, because of the influence and the impact that Malcolm X was having outside the nation, although he never left the nation. He wanted to develop, as you said, a holistic point where he can have an impact on the community and saving the community and helping us all. And because he did a lot with his news magazines and his development of security forces, and it was, you know, and it takes me back to at that point in which they killed him. And for what? I mean, when we stop to think about it and we tear it down, it was really not over his disdainment, except for when he went to Mecca and found the true religion, you know. But if we don't go there, if we just stay within this realm, it was like the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was just plainly jealous of what he created. He created Malcolm.
Yeah, it's interesting. I wonder how this show is going to portray that, and we still have to wait and see, you know, how that's going to play out on this show, if they stick to history like you were pointing out, or do like some embellishments for entertainment purposes. So I'm just still interested in seeing if that's going to come up this season, or if we're going to have to wait, you know, a little bit longer down the line. How far are they going to stretch this out?
Yeah,
We
it's
should also know that, well, I just want to mention, make sure that, you know, it wasn't just the nation, right? They had some
Mhm.
help. And
Mhm.
there's a lot of documentation that says, you know,
Yeah.
there was an extra hand in this.
oh,
And to
definitely,
Mm.
find,
definitely, because of
you
what he
know,
was doing. See, that's my point.
well,
What Malcolm was doing was he was gaining, he was really gaining a notoriety, and I only wish, I think you said earlier, I only wish that he and Malcolm had found common ground to work in. I mean, he and Martin
Right.
had found
you had the
common,
hand of the government, you
Yeah,
know,
that's
going
what you're
back and
talking about.
forth
right.
and adding tension and creating tension in that relationship, playing both sides of it. So I think it's only after the fact when Malcolm was assassinated, that they really started to see what was really going on. And it was like, you can never underestimate your enemy in the propaganda that they were playing on both sides, right? They were escalating tensions between them. And I think that's what ultimately led to him, because I wonder, without that, would Malcolm have been able to leave the nation and still live? I think it was because the government was inciting
Mhm.
tension between the organizations, going
Mhm.
back to propaganda. You know what I mean? I think it was that more so made them see Malcolm as a threat to the institution rather than a person that was just disaffected, disgruntled, and had to leave. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, absolutely. It made me think about same thing when we watched the Judas Black Messiah. I mean, it was the government that was, they were planting those flyers and stuff and trying to create discord between the Panthers and some of the street gangs and stuff too. So absolutely they were doing that.
But I look, I'm a fan of Martin. He believed in turning the other cheek, and but you only have two, and there's only so many times you can turn. You know, Malcolm believed, you take one, we take 10, and sometimes you have to put fear in the hearts of your enemies. Because as you see, we're still going through it today. Same identical thing. We have not. It's like the barometer hasn't moved for us. Very very much at all. We're still fighting the same fight. In fact, you can take the narrative from back then and look at today's narrative, and they read almost identical.
Yeah. So I'm interested in seeing this Malcolm situation, like for all the reasons you guys just stated. For sure. And then, so one other part of this show, this episode that really kind of touched me was Stella and Teddy's mom meeting up at the diner, and Stella finally, getting to get her apology across to his mother. That was such a touching moment, because like I guess like his mom had been receiving letters from Stella, and she had been avoiding reading them and throwing them in the trash, and then she finally read them, and she could see how much Stella really loved Teddy. So it's like that's y'all common ground, for her to pave way for that forgiveness. And that was just like a really touching moment. You could see Stella really needed that forgiveness. She
Mhm.
was like so relieved that his mom actually accepted her apology.
I think that saved her life. I think with that moment, Teddy's mom accepting her could have gotten her out of that depressive state that she was in. Whether it is or not, I don't know for sure, but the look on Stella's face when she reached out and grabbed her hand, I think that was medicinal right there. That right there was medicine.
It was, and it
It
was
was.
big of Teddy's mom too. I mean, yeah, that was major, because you know what I was saying last week.
Yeah, I think she's grieving, and she needs somebody to be able to share the memories of him, that know and love him as well, as her parents are basically like saying, just forget him. Like, forget you loved him, forget you saw him murdered. Like, that's
Right.
crazy. Like,
That is crazy.
Yeah.
That is crazy.
that is
And
huge.
love is a medicinal, has a medicinal use. I mean, both of them survived from that. Teddy's mom is now able to free herself, because as she stated, she blamed Stella for his death. the way she described how she brought up Teddy is the same thing we do today with our children, the same talk, the same kind of encouragement, and then here comes this white woman to disrupt things because, Teddy's mother knew very well, you can't date no white woman in this era without having some serious harm, following you. And she was right. So I think that scene right there was medicinal to both Stella and Teddy's mom.
Yeah, and just what you were talking about, her words, how she was talking about having to bring up a son, and all of the different precautions you have to warn about, how to talk to people, how to not come off as aggressive. It's crazy how even those themes from back then, they're still like so like nothing has changed. Nothing at all has changed.
But she mentioned, who was the assassin? What's his name? Gino?
Benny.
They sent him to Florida.
Yeah, but I think in that conversation too, when she realized that, okay, he was punished, he was sent to Florida. No, he wasn't punished.
With palm trees in the beach.
Right.
And then
Florida.
he's coming back, and then he may be coming back because they were considering bringing him back to help, carry out these hits on Bumpy's number spot. So I want to know what happens when she sees him again.
Oh, I think that's why she was asking, because I think she got something planned for Benny.
I think so too.
Oh yeah.
I think so too.
Oh yeah. That's the last pill for her.
Yes.
If she takes out Benny, she's good. And I think that no matter what was said between she and Teddy's mom, that's what's on her mind.
Mm-hmm.
If she finds out that Benny's back, Benny better watch his back.
Mm-hmm. And Ernie may help her.
At all.
You
He
think he
wasn't
will?
punished at all.
I think Ernie loves her enough to help her, because when he had gone there last week, he had basically gone there to warn her, and he didn't know that he was followed, and then he inadvertently led dude to Teddy. And he cares enough about her that he might, he might tell her he's back or whatever. Who knows? But I know he really wants to get in with Chin, so who knows?
Yeah, Ernie, he seems like he's a flip-flop. He can be controlled.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
He wants Stella, but he wants to be in with her father.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to seeing it. This was an excellent episode to me. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed how it was shot. Just the film, the filmography. I always talk about that, and we see it in other shows too. But how they go back and forth between the same scenes happening, like the fighting scene.
Yeah,
I love that. That was awesome. And then just seeing Bumpy in his element, just killing it. So I look forward to that. It seems like he's so unstoppable.
Mm-hmm.
The fight with Bumpy and Chin, what I got from Chin after he, had to stop and get his breath, you have downplayed Bumpy for so long that you tried to put him under your foot. But that ass whooping that you got from Bumpy let you know that he is just as powerful as you are. You hitting that body bag meant nothing to the real deal. And I think that fight had to happen. And Bumpy kind of hinted toward it in the car, when he said it's about me and Chin.
Yep.
And I think that Bumpy knew that he had to set it up so that the two of them can get it on.
Look, if you can't beat them, then join them was a person.
And he said he just needed to get that energy out anyway. He expected some of it. So
yeah, so he it was a well-deserved ass whooping, and I'm glad he delivered. And so hey, maybe they can work together now, who knows?
But some aspects of it too is that you don't have to love him, but you do. I think now he has to walk away and at least respect
him.
Bumpy.
Exactly.
If you can't respect him intellectually, financially, whatever, now you can at least know that he'll beat you if he have to too. So you have to walk away with something.
Right. Once he looks in the mirror and see he got knotted up, that'll be a reminder of that respect.
You got ass tapped, and see now you got to go home and deal with that ass.
Right.
Right. I don't know about y'all, but when you get, when you have to go home and think about that good behind whipping you just got, thing to have to come to grips with. So, you know, hey, welcome to the club, Chin. Your chin knocked out.
You know, that trip to Miami for Malcolm for the fight reminded me of that movie One Night in Miami that Regina King directed and things. It made me think about like how, you know, the different portrayals and everything. Because, you know, we didn't see in One Night in Miami the call from Elijah Muhammad and everything. And then, you know, in that movie, it was like Jim Brown kind of coached him to speak to Muhammad and let him know that, hey, these are my true intentions. So that was interesting, seeing those different portrayals.
Yeah, that's a good point.
You know, what's also interesting, it's like Malcolm never got a chance to relax. Like even in Miami, you know, I think about the enormous amount of stress he was under, you know, because you're the most hated man in America. So you have all these nationalist groups after you, the government after you, the nation. And it's like, you're in Miami and you can't even relax and go to the beach with the kids. That's just an enormous amount of anxiety and stress.
Absolutely. And that's what I guess that's what I was hinting toward with Betty. If she could only understand the enormity of the stress he was
The
under,
weight.
that anything you do could add just more weight because he really loves his wife and family. And so you have to just be careful of how you address the scene or picture that you're in with, you know, that Malcolm was in. You know, she has to be a buttress for him. Anything you say is just adding more weight. And you can see that in his eyes when she
when she said the kids are bouncing off the walls, she did kind of acknowledge that by saying, okay, I'm gonna take the kids and we're gonna go home. And that way
he didn't want that.
So that he could, so he can fulfill his mission. They won't be in the way. He won't have to worry about the kids and them. Okay, do your thing, you know, but I'm gonna take the kids back.
But as a man, I can see him feeling guilty for that. Your wife is going back with the kids, and that really wasn't your intention. You know, your intention was hopefully to get down there and let the kids and your wife have fun while you take care of business.
Right.
It didn't work. You know. It didn't
but the kids were holed up in the room with him, and the kids were very small at the time. So I can see that's what she was thinking. Like, okay, you know, do what you gotta do. Now I'm gonna take the babies back home.
It was just a no-win situation, you know.
Right.
It was a lot. It's a lot for both of them.
Right, absolutely.
I agree. All right. Well, you guys have any outlook for upcoming episode next week?
Well, one of my predictions was I noticed that conversation with Elise and Mamie, and I was like, uh-oh, there might be an issue over the baby because Elise is coming back for her baby. Like she was like, oh, you've been such a big sister. You know, she was like, yeah, for now. Like, so I'm like, uh-oh, she's gonna want her baby back.
Yeah.
That's
going. I mean, her and Mamie are getting along great now.
They are,
but that's going to be a big, you know, source of tension in the future.
Oh yeah, because she wants her now that she's straight. She wants her baby back.
I'm looking at that Pac-10 that Bumpy is trying to get with all the head drug dealers from Philly, DC. You know, there was always, you know, when it was brought up, who's going to lead? You? And you can see the tension coming in that, you know.
Oh Lord, so you gonna be the king? Yeah, I heard that. I was like, uh-oh.
Here we go.
Crabs in the barrel. I was like, there they go.
Yeah, you know, and you stop to think about it. Well, who's thinking like Bumpy? None of y'all thought that way. And Bumpy has a plan. None of y'all had a plan. So why not lead this course?
And you still getting a discount, a huge one.
50% discount. I mean, what's your problem? You know, and that is the problem. Everybody wants to lead, but can't lead. Bumpy is a true leader. So what is your problem? And I'm praying that doesn't become a problem in the next few episodes. But something tells me There's going to be a problem.
Like you'd rather, you'd rather play second class to the Italians than, let Bumpy lead. And he's
Right.
I'm kind of concerned about Adam Clayton Powell putting Bumpy's name and putting him in the radar of the feds, right? Because right now they're playing nice, but if Bumpy don't want to cooperate, if they figure out he's low-hanging fruit, they're going to come after him, change the administration, whatever. And so I was kind of upset about that. So we'll see how that plays out, because their business is that, okay, we can't get the Italians, we can get him, or we can get him and the Italians, either way.
And to your point, the federal officer said he kind of underestimated Bumpy.
Yeah.
He followed him and saw that Bumpy was playing the Sicilians, So that's a good point. It'll be interesting what comes from that, because he's now seeing that Bumpy's not a throwaway.
Yeah, that's true. I love those predictions.
Mm-hmm.
So if y'all are on par with what's going to happen this season, then we got to buckle up, because it's going to get crazy. Awesome. Well, thank everyone for watching. We definitely appreciate your viewership. Please make sure that you subscribe to our channel and click the notification bell to get alerted whenever we post new videos. We are also on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at The Spot Real Talk, so give us a follow there. And we will be back, next week with another recap, and we'll start cooking up some more content. We always got something up our sleeve, so we'll keep you in the know when we start having some other special guests and other features on other channels as well. Tiffany and Ron were recently on another channel. It was an amazing show that I was cracking up. So as we continue,
we had a lot of fun.
Yeah, that was awesome. I was cracking up the whole time. So as we continue to collaborate with other content creators, please make sure you follow us to their platforms as well, and we'll announce those as they come up. Guys, any last words?
That's it.
Okay. Well, until next week, we'll see you then.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
City of mine, how I love this city of mine. It never gets me down, yeah.
I was born in the city, I was raised on its edges. My pop work is life when it's complex. I found love in its center. If I could live here forever, think it'd be for the better. I love the weather, even though it's fog 24/7. I love the people, this is city. I met all my best friends, and I wanna thank every brick. I wanna thank every entrance to every building that I step in this city of mine. Oh, you most my